Viewer discretion is advised. This episode contains real conversations about substance use, mental health struggles, and different forms of abuse. Please listen with care and lead with kindness. These are real stories, shared openly and honestly.
Welcome to Deadly and Unfiltered. All right, so this is episode 4. Yeah, episode 4. So I'm just gonna get you to introduce yourself and.
Okay. Bonjour, Tanse. My name is Patricia McCorrister. I'm from Peguis First Nation. I'm 36 years old and I have 4 children. I'm married to Leon Spence. We've been together for almost 23 years with a lot of ins and outs, of course. And I'm here to speak and share about my journey in recovery. It has been 8 years and 6 months. So I just want to share a little about that. And yeah, so I'm glad to be here with my cousin Shakaina.
I'm so excited. I was really anxious for this one because um, just your story in recovery, and you're so open about it on social media. So um, I don't think I've ever heard your story actually. So I'm super excited for that one. So if you just wanted to share a little bit, kind of how you got to be where you are today.
September 3rd, 2017 is the morning that I had decided that I didn't want to continue living that lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, although, like, alcohol has always been part of my life, like, right from probably when I was born.
Yeah.
From what I can remember. Uh, and the impact it had on me growing up as a child. And don't mind me if I get emotional because that's just how I am.
Yeah.
I'm a very emotional, expressing person.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a lot of alcohol parties in my home and violence. A lot of that. Sometimes we tend to block those things out. So September 3rd, I was still under the influence that morning. We were on like a few day binge, days of drinking. Me and Leon and a few friends. I won't mention names or nothing. That morning, well, my addiction was alcohol and cocaine. During that time, it was really heavily used. That morning, I went to the washroom and I never really glance at the mirror or nothing when I'm under the influence, but that morning I had, and I just had like this, I don't know, I guess this spiritual awakening, you could call it. And I was like looking at myself and I just asked myself, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, where are your kids?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and then I stood there for a few moments and then I went out and everyone was sitting around my table drinking and there was like cocaine on the table. We had just got back from the Royal and I had bought more alcohol and more drugs because I had one on the slot machines there. So we had came back and after that moment I had in the washroom by myself, I came out and I was like, totally on come here, and he's like, what's wrong? And I was like, nothing's wrong. I was like, I just want everybody to leave. I said, I'm done. I said, I'm done with this. I don't know what it was, but it was just something like just totally got to me in that moment. And even the people that were sitting around the table were asking me like, what's wrong, Trish? Like, are you okay? Like, did something happen? I was like, no, nothing happened. I said, I just want everybody to leave. I said, go ahead, take the beer, take the drugs. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And then once everybody had left that morning, I just broke down. Like, I broke down to Leon and my kids. I only had 2 at the time. My Tatum and Carter. They were at my brothers at the time, and I was crying to Leon that morning, like thinking of them. Like, I wonder how they feel. Like, they're probably lonesome, and I know that lonesome feeling because growing up the same environment, right? Like with alcohol and missing mom and dad. Yeah, I just cried myself till I passed out. them. And when I would take off drinking I didn't know how to drink. Like I would drink like for days.
Yeah.
There was never just a few.
Yeah.
I never knew that, and that's why a lot of people didn't like babysitting for us.
Yeah.
To be honest,
Yeah,
and that's the reality. Like I had to.
Is this the first time you felt that sense of hesitation or that shame picking them up, or was it this time because of the awakening that you had?
I felt it quite a few times, but this time it was different.
Yeah.
It was like more heavy,
Mm.
more realization.
Yeah.
You know, like things were flooding in my head. Like they had been to other places to be babysat or just, you know, that a lot of childhood memories overcame me, and I was like starting to worry, like, what if something happened to them? What if they're not telling me something happened to them? You know, like what if they're gonna be traumatized and they're gonna struggle when they get older? So after that time, the weekend came. I have attempted to stay sober numerous, like probably like 1,000 times before that, and I would always, like, you know, end up drinking every weekend.
Yeah.
It's like the triggers, like Fridays, like honestly, child tax and welfare. I didn't work at the time. Even like child tax was a big trigger for me. Like I'll be honest. I used to wait till like 5:30 a.m. in the friggin' morning, knowing it's gonna. I think it was 4:30 or 5:30.
Yeah.
Kind of lost that memory, but like I would count down, and then I would like order drugs. Yeah, and then like Leon, my partner, it was kind of different for him. Like he was always trying to encourage me to stop doing what I was doing, but he would pretty much join me after a while. He would give up trying to talk.
Kind of that, like, if you can't beat it, just join it. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, and yeah, it was tough. And then the first weekend, man, that was hard. Like me and Leon were like the party couple. Like everybody liked to invite us out. Before it was different though. Like heck, we used to scrap it out. I mean, like I would like.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I had a lot of rage and anger in me that I never realized until one time it led to us having an NCO, and we had to go to couple counseling.
Oh yeah.
And then that's where I got a lot of things off my chest, and he got things off his chest, and it kind of did help us get closer. After that, we were kind of like okay to party together. Like we would go out drinking, and I was a bad influence, man. Like I hate to laugh about it, but that's just how we are. We like to laugh about like the reality of how we were.
Yeah.
Like heck, I would I would bug him like, come on, just a few. Like let's just go. We'll come back home later.
Yeah.
You know, and he knew. He's like we're not gonna be coming back later.
Yeah, it's not a few.
Yeah, he knew. And you know, like my addiction with cocaine, I used to hide it from him, from everybody, kind of, I guess. But he used to get mad at me. Like, I know what you're doing. Like, the signs were there. I would go to the washroom and act as if I'm going to the washroom, like to use the washroom, but I would be doing drugs. And I guess I was just bullshitting myself, really. The first weekend, it was really hard. I had to, like, really, really fight to stay sober. Harder than the most other times, because I really wanted it this time. I felt it in my spirit, you know, like my heart was telling me like, Trish, you have to stop this. And then I started to like think a lot, like there's gonna be these many times. This is just one weekend, you know. But I tried to not to think too much ahead, you know, in my first few weeks of recovery. And there was a lot of emotions, like when you're really fresh into recovery, you're feeling everything.
Oh yeah.
like I was feeling like a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, a lot of realization. I was having anxiety, panic
Mm-hmm.
attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was times where Leon had to come home from work,
Yeah.
and I was like, I don't know what I'm feeling,
Yeah.
you know. But then after a while, I started realizing where that was coming from. You know, like I shared earlier, um, about fear of what may have happened to my kids while I
Mm.
wasn't with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Where do you think that fear came from? Do you think it stems from childhood or?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
like that was the hardest part. Like 7 months into my recovery,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what it was, and then I had went and applied for this job at Tigris Treatment Center,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought it was just like any type of job. You know, I'm gonna go make some money.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But anyways, I went and I got the job, and it requires you to do the 4 week day program.
Mm-hmm.
And through those 7 months, I struggled really bad with like anxiety, and
Mm-hmm.
I started going to church. Like
Yeah.
there was one time Leon had to take me to church, and I was just crying, bawling, and like in front of everyone, but way in
Mm-hmm.
the back. And I guess I was just um, trying to find forgiveness, but I couldn't forgive myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then my childhood come, like
Yeah.
sneaking up on
Yeah.
me, and there was, things that had happened to me as a little girl,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
just things I never told anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I told Leon, but
Mm-hmm.
it only came out when I was drunk,
Mm-hmm.
like the
Yeah.
rage. Like I was even angry at my mom and dad
Mm-hmm.
because I blamed them, for
Mm-hmm.
being unprotected, I guess you
Yeah.
could say.
Yeah.
But I guess like no parent thinks that their kid is under any kind of harm or
Yeah.
anything like that,
Yeah.
and especially like when there's partying and stuff happening in your home, and
Mm-hmm.
it could be even people you trust, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So back to the 7 months. So I did the 4 week program, and when I did that 12-step program,
Mm-hmm.
I thought, okay, like I could do this. Like this is nothing. It's all in paper, eh?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then it asks you questions, and then holy man, I was just like, what the hell kind of questions are these? Like it was opening up old doors, that
Mm.
I had kept shut
Yeah.
for years in my childhood,
Mm-hmm.
my trauma. Sometimes it's hard to talk about, but I think it's good. Like in a way, it's healing. It helps you to heal to talk about
Oh
it.
yeah. 100%.
Forgiveness to people that had hurt us. That is
Mm-hmm.
one of the hardest things.
Yeah.
And
Especially when it's not, they're not coming and asking for that forgiveness, or sometimes that person isn't even around, and you have to do it for yourself. That's one of the hardest things. And especially forgiving yourself for maybe putting yourself in those situations or allowing yourself to be surrounded by those kind of people that would inflict that type of harm.
yes, for sure. Like for me, when I was a little girl, I was molested, I guess you could
Mm-hmm.
say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, it is that.
Mm-hmm.
It is that. And that was one of the hardest doors to open.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, like this is scary as
Yeah.
hell.
Yeah.
I felt like that little Trish, all over again. That one that I had like kept shut
Mm-hmm.
in a room. Um, so that came arise, and now like we talk about forgiveness, I couldn't forgive this person, but
Mm-hmm.
it was different this time.
Yeah.
I was like, holy man, like that's what's been just sitting there that whole time, that pain, that hurt, that anger,
Yeah.
that sickness,
Mm-hmm.
and so it came to me like, if you want to move forward in your healing, in your recovery, you
Mm-hmm.
have to forgive them. Not for them, but
Mm-hmm.
for me.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you said.
Yeah.
Like that was something new to me.
Mm-hmm.
So in my form of way that I found forgiveness is I wrote the person
Mm-hmm.
a letter,
Mm-hmm.
my forgiveness.
Mhm.
And then I burnt it. It was like a ceremony for me,
Yeah. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
myself, and then I've shared this like with Dion. I've shared it with my two oldest kids.
Yeah. Mhm.
What had happened to me.
Yeah.
I said, and that is my fear of anything happening to you.
Mhm.
I said I was so blinded by my hurt, my pain, and my anger for all those years before. My kids were about 7 and 8 when I quit, and I was blinded for those many years because I was so tunnel visioned on my pain and hurt,
Yeah.
and I was using alcohol and drugs to numb that.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
get that. Yeah.
after that awakening happened, like I was open with my kids. I asked them the hardest question ever, like, did anything ever happen to you? Do you need to tell me? Because I don't want you to ever feel like you can,
Mhm.
and even that forgiveness from them,
Yeah.
it was hard.
Mhm.
And in the first year of recovery, oh my gosh, like I barely even knew my kids, man, like because I was always gone on weekends, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like they were just existing to me, and
Mhm.
I was just like, hey, weekends here, like I would always like use my like Kaylee on your work all week, like it's my turn to go out,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like honestly,
You needed that justification to go out and
yeah, like any excuse.
yeah. Yeah.
But like what, everybody has their own ways. I don't wanna
Mhm.
be making anyone feel bad. It's just what I'm sharing is what was with me.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
I feel like that's a universal experience though. Like I am going on I think 5 years sober. Mine was not at some self-realization. I wish it was. It was a big health scare that I had. It's like my thing though was I didn't bother drugs. I mean, I've tried drugs, but it just wasn't for me. It didn't really do anything for me, so I never bothered with them. But my thing was like alcohol. Like I would have like a 24 a night. I was like a huge closet alcoholic. Like I could drink all night, sober up, shower up, be at work, and I was functioning that way. And I was in school too in the evening. So I would use like cleaning or um, finishing an assignment or like anything I could as an excuse to have a drink. Or that was my big thing too is if I can't clean this house and I need to have a drink while I'm cleaning because it's just what I excuse. And my kids would be with their dad and that was like I think that last year before I finally got sober was like the hardest time we've ever been through. And the only thing that got me out of it was like my heart was ready to like crap out on me because I think it was in November and I wasn't drinking that evening, but I went to watch a movie with my girls and I was laying in the room and all of a sudden I felt like my chest go weird and I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, hey, let me get up, move around. I'm like, no. And I just bought an Apple Watch, so I put that Apple Watch on and it tracks your heart rate. And it was like 180 something. And I'm like, whoa, what the heck? And then it reset itself. And then it was like 210. And then it had like a refresh symbol on the heart. And I'm like, frick? And then I'm like panicking. I'm freaking out. I'm like, okay, I'm dying. I'm dying. And then I told Josh, I'm like, call someone. Like, I don't know. He's like, you're turning blue. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know what you mean. And so apparently I lost all color in my face. I couldn't stop. And when the paramedics finally arrived, I clocked in at 298 beats per minute, and they had to shock my heart while I was conscious to to stop. And they said that after all was said and done at the hospital, they told me that it was because of the alcohol and stress and whatever else. They they assumed I was doing drugs, even though I tested negative for everything. But I guess that they were just looking for some reason. I guess why my heart would do that. But I think it was just for me. I've kind of for me to understand was just the God saying like, "Okay, like you need to slow down, like slow down, or I'm gonna make you slow down." Like it was so scary, and it was one of those things where like, because I remember so vividly, like the paramedics saying like, we need you to lay down in your kitchen, like we need to help you right now. And I said, I'm not dying in front of my kids. Like, you can take me outside. I can walk outside. I feel fine to walk. And then he's like, well, whatever. It's like, let's go then. And then so I just had the 3 at the time, and then no 4, but Hartley was just a baby. And then Ariel and Darlin were watching in the hallway. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry. And they were watching me, and I just remember it felt like a movie. Like, when they go slow motion, the sound is kind of not there, and you're just moving. And um, Ariel was crying, and I can hear her saying like, "I love you, mommy. I love you." And in my head, I'm like praying to God. I'm like, please don't take me from my kids. Like, please don't let me die in front of my kids. Like, I'll change. Oh my god. I was like, I'll change. I'll do better. I'm going to quit drinking. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to run from what's hurting me. I will face it all and deal with it. And that's what stuck with me, and it still sticks with me to this day, is hearing Ariel and Darlin's little voices just saying like, I love you, mommy, and not knowing if I'm going to come back into the house. Because when I got into the ambulance is when they shocked me, and it went dark. Like, I didn't know they were going to shock me. They're distracting me, putting stickers all over my chest, and all of a sudden I hear clear, and then it went dark. And my mom teases me because she's like, you know why it went dark? You know where you're going.
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, Mom. And she's like, well, there would have been a light. And I'm like, don't say that.
Well, there was light actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was so awful. And I was just like, holy crap, man. And then, so after all of that happened, like, there was that fear of my heart giving out on me that kept me sober. I didn't do it because I wanted to. I got sober because I had to. And I'm always super honest about that too, especially like still today, where I'm like, I'm not sober because I want to be, it's just because I have to be. But then also over the past 5 years, I've had to do a lot of healing and facing trauma, and a lot of that, like, I can share with that experience with you in like the childhood trauma, kind of bleeding into your adult life. And um I can relate to fearing for your children not, or for your children experiencing some of the stuff that you might have. But also at the same time, I've had to like stop and ask myself like, well, you're literally doing exactly what your parents are doing. At what point do you stop and take accountability and, say enough is enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times for our people, and I say our people because like indigenous peoples, just historically, it's that intergenerational trauma, right? And we don't really have healthy ways. I mean, we're learning, and people are learning healthy ways of coping. But when you look back, it's kind of like a universal experience growing up in that alcoholic household. And if you could talk to, maybe put 100 indigenous people in the room, and half of that room will probably have a very similar experience.
See, when you talk about intergenerational trauma,
Mhm.
growing up, it wasn't talked about. Like,
No,
I didn't
no.
know. I thought that's just who we were. Like,
Mhm.
people that drink and have parties. Like,
Mhm.
I knew alcohol to be the answer to everything.
Mhm.
Like, birthdays,
Yeah.
let's drink.
Yeah.
Funerals, we
Mm.
grieve by drinking after the services.
Mhm.
I used to do that with my kids.
Yeah.
Like, I was drinking on my kid's 6th birthday,
I did
because I
that.
felt like, okay, like, I threw the party.
I put in all this
Yeah,
work. I
I
deserve
deserve
this.
this,
Yeah.
right? Like, because I seen that too, like, growing
Mhm.
up, but I always knew it wasn't going to end good,
Mhm.
you know? Like we know this,
Yeah.
but we're still, it's just like we have that, well, that's who we are, gotta do
Mhm.
this.
Mhm.
And then, like, when we were younger, we weren't even allowed to, like, share and talk about, like, our childhoods and the
Nope.
impact it had on us.
Nope.
And, like, right now, I find, like, you and I, like, our generation
Mhm.
is very open.
That's the shitty part, is we are the cycle breakers. We are the I feel like this generation is the healing generation because growing up, and I'm sure a lot of people maybe listening have heard this, what happens in this house stays in this house. There was no therapy, there was no family counseling, there wasn't even CFS. Like unfortunately if CFS was involved, then you answered the door and you weren't supposed to. Like cuz that was just the thing, right? Like if your parents go out drinking, keep the door locked, don't answer the door, stay away from the windows. Like that was just a universal experience that I feel like we've all had, and that's kind of where we are today. Like our generation is breaking that like fully 100%, and we're so much more open than our parents are. And I feel like especially with our healing, and I don't mean to group you in there, just stop me if I'm wrong, but um even trying to reflect back now, like as you're healing personally, and you try to maybe talk about some stuff that you're healing through, you try to bring it up to them and they're like, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're gaslighting me. Like, what do you mean? Like, you're saying that my lived experience didn't happen. Like, I remember it so vividly. I remember the hurt. I remember like everything. And there are even times where it's like there's this huge, for me personally, there's this huge block in my memory, maybe from the age of 5 to 9, maybe 10. So it's like 5 years of my life blacked out, gone. And so my therapist has told me that that's a result of my brain protecting itself from an experience I may have had, and he's offered to unlock it for me. I said no. I'm not opening that door yet. I know it has to happen. It's slowly happening, but
Only when you're ready.
I had a sliver of it open up, and I had to speak to I haven't spoken to my parents about it yet. I don't think I will because I feel like I've come to terms with it, and for myself and how I needed to for myself, that I don't think this is just something that I'll be able to share with them because I don't know where they're at in their healing or their sobriety. So when they're ready, they'll address it. And if it doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. Then at least for myself, I'm able to say that I forgive and that I've kind of um, went through the steps to close that door for good and in a good way and not out of trauma. But that's a huge thing in that trauma. Like holy crap, that fuels a lot. Like when you were talking about your going out and the childhood thing, I'm like that's trauma fueling your addiction, really.
Yeah. See, like similar to what you just shared too. Like I wasn't able to, even to this day, I wasn't even able to tell my mom and dad what had happened to me, and I came to terms on my own. Like I would tell them sober. I mean, intoxicated, like Pac Man. I was really wicked, man, because like we did get gaslight. Like we tried to speak up as a child, but then like we don't talk about this stuff. Be quiet. Like
or that didn't happen.
Yeah. So when I did that part of my healing for myself, it. I thought about my parents. I thought like, man, I want to go tell them. And I was thinking like, they wouldn't even listen anyway. Though I know they would probably like, like find something to say that where we can't talk about it. So there comes to that realization where you're like, hey, well, I don't need to do that. I don't need to go to them to find my healing in what happened to me. It did happen. We grew up. I grew up making myself believe it didn't happen because of not being able to tell them at that age, at that time. And then everything, it still sat there in my mind. The flashbacks of what happened, how I felt, how small I was, and when I started my healing journey, I was like, hey, it was like going back, opening that door and grabbing little Trisha's hand, and having girls now, like I'm like they were like that small, like when that happened to me. Sorry. I did a lot of crying when I went back there, like to opening those doors. And another thing too that I want to say is Like, I don't blame my mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, even at one point in my life when I forgave the persons that had hurt me throughout my life, I don't even blame them because now my mind is like, wonder what happened to them to make them do that to somebody else.
And you know you're healing when you start
Right?
sympathizing with the people
Yes.
who put you in those situations. Like that is not a lot of people can get to that point.
I
And I really
know.
like commend you for doing that because that is work. That
It
is
is.
really really hard work.
It is. It is. I think about that because right now, what I do, like I work as an addiction counselor, like here in Fish River,
Mm-hmm.
and I've met so many like hurt people,
Mm.
you know. And when I see hurt people that come and see me, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, man, like I just want to hug them, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because could see almost me,
Yeah.
where I
Yeah.
was once
Yeah.
before. So when I do my work, it comes from the heart.
Mm.
It doesn't come from, like policy and procedure. I know I gotta follow that, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm more of a person to person
Oh
first.
yeah. Yeah.
And, I openly share to my story, with them so that
Mm-hmm.
they can almost kind of see, like, I could
Mm-hmm.
understand them in a
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
and to build that trust. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not just sitting here, like, taking notes of
Yeah,
your
yeah.
life
And
and
then
stuff.
sending referrals out without
Yeah.
even trying to sympathize with your situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's hard too to find like people that will actually listen
Mm,
to you.
yeah, yeah.
Like even I struggle with that in my first year recovery. I'm
Mm,
like, I can't talk to my mom and dad. I can't. I didn't know anything about therapy. I didn't know anything about NADAP or treatment.
yeah,
Honestly, I
yeah,
didn't.
yeah.
I had a friend that used to work at the treatment center in Peguis.
Mm-hmm,
Uh, before I quit drinking,
mm-hmm.
I tried to go to the treatment center in Peguis, but I went as far as getting the papers.
Yeah.
Probably like a month before I actually just had my awakening that morning,
Mm-hmm.
and I still actually have those papers put away. They're like all signed up, like
Oh,
filled out. I mean,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they're just sitting there, and I couldn't do it.
Oh.
Like I'm just jumping from something else to another,
No,
but
no worries.
um, even that, like how hard of a decision it must be to go to treatment.
Yeah.
Because the reason why I couldn't go to treatment, I was like, who's gonna watch my kids? Like,
Mm-hmm.
who's gonna like hug them up in nighttime when I'm not there?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. And of course, there was comments like, "Well, you didn't think about that when you were out drinking, binge drinking." Those are gonna come, and I
Yeah, yeah,
expected that
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
criticism.
yeah.
I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna hear this because my many attempts before when I quit drinking, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, heard that again, like how long this time, like just all the negative
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
things and little things like that, like being in attempting recovery
Yeah, yeah.
is a trigger.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like disgrading, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right word, but like for someone that's attempting,
Yeah.
it just discourages them like
Oh
really
yeah.
bad.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I can see that because like you're really trying to get better and you recognize the problem and as human beings in general, you're looking for that outside what's the word? That outside like you're doing great. I can't think of the word right now. I'll put a definition
like
here
a
if I find it.
kind of like that support or positive
Yeah,
affirmations kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Where it's just like, yeah, like you got this, go, like all that good stuff is, and we seek that out. We want to be told that we're doing a good job. We want to be told that what we're doing is great. The steps that we're taking is great. Like, good on you for realizing it's so important to surround yourself with people who are positive thinkers and talkers like that. Because when you surround yourself with people, and unfortunately, a lot of the times it's your own family members that are like you said, oh, how many times have I heard that? Or how long are you going to be sober this time? Like, it's not going to last. And you know you, I know you. And it's like, what the hell is your problem? It costs
Mm-hmm.
nothing to just be supportive. And like, I'll support you through this. If we've done this before. You're ready to do it again? Let's go.
Yeah.
That's how you should be. you shouldn't be talking down and like, oh, that just bugs me so much, especially when you see it on social media. And but I've seen it though, because I have a family member who is struggling with addiction right now, and I've seen the negative side to people being positive and saying like, that's okay, like you relapse, that's okay, get back up and do it again. Then the person addicted takes that as, I can fall down as many times as I want and I'm still going to be supported. And it's kind of like this game you got to play. It's a hard balance to keep,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah, yeah.
it's hard.
I
It's
totally
hard.
understand where you're coming from. Yeah. Another thing that I like talking about, like when I people are coming to me just as friends or family, just
Mhm.
for support.
Mhm.
I talk about the reality of being your own support. Like
Mhm.
you have to learn to sit in it.
Yep.
Like nobody's gonna come there and be there all the time.
Yep.
You have to be there for yourself. You have to
Mhm.
tell yourself, like for me, the thing was boredom.
Yeah.
Like boredom. Like there's nothing to do. I'm sick of the same shit every day.
Mhm. Mhm.
You just have to sit in it.
Yeah.
Like if you want to stay sober, because our minds are like trained to do what our old habits had
Yeah.
us doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're kind of rewiring our brains to doing
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna like journal. I was
Mhm.
journaling and I was praying. I was
Mhm.
even reading the Bible the first few months in my recovery,
Mhm.
going to church, walking, working out,
Mhm.
and then some days, some weekends, I was sitting in my room crying because my mind was fighting to go drink and do
Yeah.
drugs, and my
Yeah.
heart was fighting to stay here and
Mhm.
sit through it.
Mhm.
Like, you want this?
Yep.
You know what it's gonna do, and that's another thing is hard to in that moment. When that trigger comes, and it's like you could probably have a few drinks, and then you could get right back up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's this thing working on you,
Yeah.
and this thing is fighting.
Yeah.
Like don't
It's
listen to that.
hard to find that what's the word, that willpower, I guess, especially when it's not just the boredom too. Like, I know when I was um finding my sobriety, I was forced into it, but it got to a point where like I started having to actively choose it. Otherwise, I would have 100% risked my life and tried to have a drink again. I would have like rationalized and been like, well, maybe like, because I remember like sitting one weekend and Googling like how many drinks before you trigger an SVT attack. Like, and I'm
Yeah.
like, that's my limit. But then I'm like, no, like I can't do that. Like, so I got to a point in my healing where I had to start facing a lot of my emotions that I would use as my excuse to drink. So sitting in that, see, but for me, like I didn't reach out to community. I obviously they advertised their resources
Mm-hmm.
around, but I was, I guess, kind of blind. I didn't want to see that. So I kind of took the hard route where I would seek out I did reach out for help with a therapist at the health center, and that's about all I knew. I didn't know anything else to do with recovery because I was such a huge closet drinker that nobody knew how bad it was to even offer any like NADAP
Mm-hmm.
help,
Yeah.
or any
Yeah.
treatment help, because to them it was like, oh well, you almost died because of your drinking, like that's motivation enough, like that should keep you sober. But really it was like I could have used probably I should have been in treatment, because not only coming out of the health scare that I had, I developed health anxiety and the depression. It was I was withdrawing because I'd go from a bottle of vodka every night, a 24 every other night, for sure a 12 pack a night, to absolutely nothing. And that lasted, I think, maybe like 6 months. No, maybe like 4 months, because it was right after Hartley. And for 4 months straight, I would drink like that. And then just cutting it off completely was like withdrawing. And I didn't even know that I was in having withdrawals.
Withdrawal.
I didn't know because I was so focused on the health part, right? And I was scared to tell anybody about the amount of drinking that I was doing. I think the only person that knew was my best friend at the time, and that was only because she was with me like every other night. Like we were crazy, me and her at that time, and I don't know, it was just a phase we went through, and That I think was the hardest part in recovery. Yeah, was sitting with all the feelings, sitting with the triggers, and allowing the depression and that to swallow me, and ultimately like dragging myself out of it. Like nobody was coming to save me because there was just that refusal of wanting to share. And I don't know if it was shame or fear of judgment, but I couldn't. And so I just dealt with it the best way I knew how. And that's also kind of how I grew up too, where it's like, you don't tell anybody your business. You deal with it. It happened here, it stays here, deal with it, get better, and at least act normal at work and,
Yeah.
function. That's, I feel like, is such an awful, like, is something I will not be taking into my parenting. Like, I'm so, like you are with your kids, I'm so open with my kids. Like, that's what I'm going to be open with them about as they get older and they try and experiment. And that's what I've told JJ too. Like, he's gonna be 13. Oh my god. I don't know how you feel because your kids are getting
Oh
like
my
at
God,
that
wait till I
age
talk
too.
about that.
Jeez, man. Like, I had a panic. Like, JJ he's gonna be 13 in June. We were watching a show and a kid was having like a drug overdose or something, and he's like, "Oh, what's happening to him?" And I said, we had this big long conversation about drugs and, being careful and whatever. And whenever you're ready, tell us if you're gonna experiment. And he's like, "Well, I'm just more curious about weed." And I'm like, "Okay, well, you need to tell us." So like, I'm gonna be the type of parent that's like, I will buy it safely for you.
Yeah.
I'd rather you do it and I know you're doing it than you going and buying from some guy from a random house on the res. Like, you're not doing that because people are lacing that shit. It's scary.
That's exactly what I tell my kids.
Yeah.
Like, my son, he's gonna be 16, and he's experimented, and growing up, I experimented at that age, and I used to have I used to just get in shit, man. Like, one time we lived in Brandon, and I was 16, and I went to this my friend's house, and her mom let her drink, and then I was like we were drinking, and Ty, my brother, was phoning her, and then she's like, "Let me just talk to Trish," because I was saying, I'm not here.
Yeah.
And she's like, "She's not here, and oh, just come on, it's just me, and I went on the phone. I said, "Yeah, I'm here. Don't tell mom." And she's on the phone. "Don't tell me what?" And I was like, "Oh my god." So she showed up at the place, and the mom just kept bullshitting, like lying, like, "She's not here. Your daughter's not here." Finally, I felt bad because I was putting my mom in danger because this mom was really rangating, like really. And I was like, "Hey," I went downstairs, and I went right to the door, and she gave me a good smack across the face. I don't blame her because I mean, that's how it was then.
Yeah.
So I went home, got in shit, the big earful, and it didn't stop me. Like,
No,
I
yeah.
continued to take
You
off
just
so
got
many
sneakier.
times. Yeah,
You got
I
better
did.
at hiding it.
And then, so now, like, my kids, like, Tatum 17, Carter's gonna be 16, and he's had experience with weed, and I just tell him, like what you said, I would want to talk to you about safety, like, you don't go using anybody's thing, don't go sharing bottles or whatever, being safe about it,
Yeah.
And with my girl too, I tell her the same thing. And just last night we were laying, she came home from her friends about like midnight. I told Leon, "Go get babe, I'm just lonesome for her," because she was at the hockey tournament all weekend. And then she came home last night, and we laid in the room just in the dark, and she's telling me some things, of her weekend or whatever. Then I told her things about myself, and I said, "Babe, growing up," I said, "I've seen, like, even myself be labeled because of the choices, like, our parents made. Oh, Trisha's a little shit starter, like, that kind of thing."
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like some of my friends' parents would blame me, like, for their kids' choices. I'm like, they have a mind of their own just because they're with me.
Yeah.
And then so I started telling her, like, I don't blame your friends when you make the choice to ever experiment anything. I said, because you have that mind and choice of your own. I said, it would be wrong for me to say, "Oh, you went and did that because of her or because of him," kind of thing. I don't do that. So And I told her about, I started talking about Leon and my child today. I
Mhm.
said, me and dad kind of have like similarities, but different too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I told her, sometimes even kids get labeled, like saying, oh, they're not going to do no good because of the environment they're being raised
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
I said, but look at me and dad. I said, we made that choice
Mhm.
to do different. I said it
Mhm.
may took us a lot of years. I was, what, 27 when I decided to quit drinking, and I'm
Mhm.
36 now.
Mhm.
So I said, that's why we got to be mindful and not judge one another,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
whether we be kids or, teenager, adult, young adult,
Yeah.
like everybody can make a change in their lives.
At any time.
And it's
Anytime.
never too late.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's just the realization they have to come on their own, and it has to come from them because they're the only ones putting the work in. Like
Mm-hmm.
no one's gonna come and like a puppet and pull strings and make you better, and or
Yeah.
put you to sleep and then you wake up when you're all healed and everything. Like no, it's not how it works. You have to feel everything. You have to relive and rehash and go through it, and that's the only way to get out of that is to just go through it.
Yeah. Like for me, when I was stuck in that mindset of
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, it's mom and dad's fault, oh, this shitty
Mm-hmm.
old
Mm-hmm.
childhood,
Yeah.
growing up in alcohol and violence and,
Mm-hmm.
things that had happened to me, I was just like kind of like the victim mode,
Yeah.
for
That
so
victim
many,
mentality. Yeah.
yeah, for so many years. And when I came to terms of like, heck, man, I could change my life anytime I
Mm-hmm.
want,
Mm-hmm.
like it's hard to get out of that mentality because
Mm.
it's like blame mom and dad,
Yeah.
blame mom and dad,
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I forgive mom and dad, like they
Mm-hmm.
were in survival and they only knew what they knew too,
Mm-hmm.
growing
Mm-hmm.
up.
Yeah.
And it's it takes everyone a different time to
Yeah.
come to that mindset,
Yeah.
like, hey, I could be the change.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's such
Mm-hmm.
a sad realization though once you start like you start looking at like your childhood and then when you come to that realization of oh well they're just doing what they knew how and they're just
Mm-hmm.
doing the best with what they could with what they were raised with, right? And then you start sympathizing and then you start going back like well you're not going to blame your grandparents but you're just also it's just this generational thing, right? There's
Yeah.
that intergenerational trauma of well what happened to them to result to this, and it's just patterns that kept happening because there was nobody to stop it and be like, hey, like, no, we're not doing this. Because a lot of the times, if people heal, they distance themselves from the chaos. They
Mm-hmm.
refuse to go back or interact with those family members. And then instead of maybe trying to help or um, associate with them, they kind of turn around and look down on them and like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm better than you now because I got out of that. I don't live like that no more, so I'm better than you. That is another toxic mindset that our people
Yes, yes,
have,
yes.
and that's something that keeps a lot of people in the situations that they're in because it's just well, you could say like mom and dad maybe have that mindset and well I'm not gonna what's the point in getting better because they think they're better than me, I'm down here, I might as well just stay down here. And it's that victim mentality, that poor me, woe is me, the world is happening to me, instead of like realizing like you're a part of this world too, you can put a stop to it whenever you want. But once you wake up out of that victim mentality and you start realizing that you can literally change your life at any time, that is a powerful awakening.
There's like a lot of steps to take to like
Mm-hmm.
continue recovery,
Mm-hmm.
like mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. There's
Mm-hmm.
like areas. And this one person, this nice woman, uh she talked about these windows in
Mm-hmm.
our like mind,
Mm-hmm.
and windows and memories kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And like just to focus on one window at a time, you know
Mm-hmm.
like when you were talking about loneliness there,
Mm-hmm.
like in recovery, oh my god, I was just like, oh heck yeah, man. Now it's just remembering like how many nights I sat in my room crying because like
Mm-hmm.
wanting to be with my friends, but I didn't trust myself. It
Yeah.
wasn't that I didn't trust them, and
Yeah, yeah.
or was I wasn't trying to act like it was any better, but I
Mm-hmm.
knew myself that much that
Mm-hmm.
if I were to go and hang out these old places that I
Yeah.
used to party, I know my mind is gonna convince me to have a drink, have a line, you know, and
It's just one.
yeah,
Yeah.
it would never be just one though.
Mm-hmm.
That's how tricky and tough and strong the mind plays with our hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really a tough journey, I tell you that. And
It's worth it though.
like even spiritually,
Mhm.
I struggled. Um, when I first got sober, I don't know if you, I talked to this before on Facebook, of course.
Mhm.
I don't know if you know Jim Felix.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He sings.
Yeah.
He's a preacher.
Yeah.
But anyway, like 5 months into my recovery, I was going through all these freaking emotions, especially anxiety. Like it
Yeah.
almost convinced me that like I wanted to go hide under a
Yeah.
rock, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Leon came home from work, like, what's going on with you, babe? And I was just crying. I don't know, like I'm crying. I'm thinking bad thoughts in my mind, like, and I wanted to go drink so that I could not feel any of what I was feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he spoke to I think it's Stephen Flett,
Mhm.
and then he said, bring in our church. So Leon comes home from work. He's like, get ready, we're going to church, you know? And I was like, okay. And then we went to the Dallas church here, Ernest Stevenson's church.
Mhm.
And like I shared earlier, I was sitting in the back and I was crying. Like I remember sitting there thinking of everything, like my childhood, my kids, and how I hurt my mom and dad, because there was times when I had the rage came out as physical and words. You know,
Yeah.
words really hurt, man. They
Yeah.
stick.
Yeah.
And everything, like I was asking for forgiveness, but I couldn't forgive myself like I wanted to. But I was like, you don't deserve it, you know, like kind of thing. So that night, I was questioning my sobriety, my recovery. Can I keep doing this? You know, like I just feel like running back to the bottle. And then that guy was like preaching and singing, and then all of a sudden he started talking, and he's like, "Oh, I was traveling to Peguis here," and he said like the the name came to me, a whisper, her name, like the name. He's like, "Is there like a Patty or a Patrick or Patricia here?" And oh my god, like I still get shivers, man. And I was sitting there crying. Leon was sitting right here, and he like, "Babe, is that your name?" And there's me goes down like that. Everybody turned and looked at me because we kind of like everybody knows everyone in the rest.
Yeah.
She's right there. They all saw, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like what the heck?
Holy shit.
And then he called me up. Well, I was trying to like hide.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're like, "She's right here," and Leon nudging me there, and I was like, "What the heck is this?" You know, and I was already like bawling earlier. And I went up to the altar, and he pretty much like answered my questions that I was asking when I was crying. You know, like, can I keep doing this? Can I be forgiven for the pain and hurt that I caused to my family and, you know, my children especially? And he's like, you're questioning yourself, and like, you know, just talking to me there, and I was like, I didn't even say nothing to him. Honestly, I didn't know what to say. And then he said, like, he just gave me confirmation, like, you're gonna be okay. He's like, just keep trusting and keep walking the path. Holy man.
That's so beautiful.
Like after I left that church, holy man, like that keeps me going. That memory, that time that happened, you know, and you know, I'm gonna go to something else in a bit, but that there was like confirmation that I needed. Ever since then, I've never really questioned myself. I just kept going in my recovery and my journey with everything negative that came my way, the obstacles, you know.
Yeah.
Like, there are so many hard times in these past 8.5 years. The closest time I've ever had, like I've ever almost given up was, um, and I think it was 2021. Me, and my partner were going through a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
Things were just pulling us apart, and
Mm-hmm.
I sat at my best friend's on her step, and I almost like went up to town and
Mm-hmm.
gave up, but I decided not to. I sat there, I cried, and I said, "Who?" I talked to myself like, "Who holds your recovery and your healing and sobriety?
Mm-hmm.
Anything that comes to you negative, or you,
Yeah.
your choice,
Mm-hmm.
you know." And I sat there and I said, "I hold that.
Mm-hmm.
I hold the choice to keep going."
Yeah.
So I just kept going, and there was other challenges, like parenting getting tough,
Mm.
even what I was saying to my husband, I was like, heck man, I was like, sobriety can be so exhausting too, like recovery and healing,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's why those like self-care days, it's not only about your nails and your hair, it's like
Mm-hmm.
your spirit,
Yeah.
finding that balance in your
Mm-hmm.
spirit,
Mm-hmm.
letting yourself rest.
Mm-hmm.
um, so like today I find balance in going into like uh, Mother Nature,
Mm-hmm.
sweats. I haven't been to a sweat for a while though, so hopefully soon. I've
Mm-hmm.
just had my baby. He's like gonna be 4 months, so
Mm-hmm.
I really need to get to one. I went to one just before, last year sometime anyway, at the Sun Lodge there in Peguis.
Mm-hmm.
So even that like spirituality, I
Mm-hmm.
struggled with growing up. Like
Yeah.
there's so many like talks of that's not the right way, that's the wrong
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Do this, do
Yeah.
that. I remember the one time in my life when something very traumatic happened to my whole family,
Mm-hmm.
especially my sibling.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, what I witnessed there really impacted all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I can't speak for any of my siblings or my mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way how it impacted me.
Yeah.
Because I remember they were going to sweats and ceremonies and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, and doctoring. And then all of a sudden, I remember everything was being taken out, like the dream catchers, like all our things were taken out of the house. Then all of a sudden, we're going to church,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember people saying, like, that's, you know, it just put me in a spot of growing up and not knowing who I
Mm-hmm.
was,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
my identity.
Yeah.
But today, who I am now, I have respect for
Mm-hmm.
whatever works for anyone,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
whatever works for their spirit.
Yeah.
That's how I'm like, oh, I'll go sit in church on a Sunday and I'll go to a sweat,
That's how our
next week.
generation is. It's that balancing that fine line. The past generations, it was your one way or the other. One way is right, one way is wrong. And I'm finding that this new generation, like our generation and the younger ones, they are balancing it perfectly. Like I know Christians who go to sweats. That's just
Mm-hmm.
what they like to do, and they're not going in there disrespectful and disrespecting Creator or the teachings or the medicines or anything like that. Like that's literally how it should be. Like that, in order to for someone in recovery, they need to know that there is no one way or the other.
Yeah.
Whatever you feel comfortable doing, whatever brings you peace and brings you that
That
feel
balance.
good, that you have to find that balance for yourself. You can't let anybody influence you and say, well, that's not the right way, that's
Yeah.
not how I did it. Okay, but that's for them. You need to
Mm-hmm.
find what works for you, and if that's, like you said, going to church on Sunday and then going to sweat on a Monday, that's beautiful,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're doing what you need to do for your spirit. You need to take care of your spirit.
Yeah. For as long as I think, like, as long as I'm walking in a humble,
Mm-hmm.
understanding, compassionate way to all my peers, all our community members, without passing judgment or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's perfectly fine, whatever you're doing for yourself.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
That was a big struggle growing up, man. I was like, oh my God, I don't even know who I am.
Yeah.
And now, I'm so at peace with myself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
growing up, like, hey, I don't know if you could relate to me or not, but like growing up in an alcoholic home, like there was judgment there. Like
Mm-hmm.
people used to like tease me and my siblings about our daddy because
Mm-hmm.
his drinking, and um, that was one of the hardest thing I took to heart because I love my dad so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I
he,
can relate. I can relate. For me, it was my mom, and only because my mom's not from around here. But when my mom, if you knew her when she drank, when she's sober, she's so quiet. She's just very like keeps to herself. But when she would drink, she was like the life of the party, the loudest one there. Like you didn't even need to look around; you could hear her and know that she's close. So that's one thing that I would be teased about, and I can relate to that. And I don't play about my mom. Like I fought for my mom.
yeah,
I fought people for talking about my mom.
I know. Like in school, I'd be like, oh, like just being teased because he had a
Mm-hmm.
drinking problem,
Mm-hmm.
eh? And
Mm-hmm.
why can't I just get like growing up seeing that? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Like I hated that. I hated hearing
Mm-hmm.
other kids tease us, and even like the condition of our home.
Mm-hmm.
Clothes we wore. I remember I
Mm-hmm.
used to get teased on the school bus for wearing Walmart clothes. Now Walmart is just has nice clothes,
Yeah,
man.
well,
I
and
love
and
going there.
I mean, they were always nice. I think it was just the whole brand thing, and that is something that I'm so glad my kids don't care about nowadays. I'm so glad there was that shift in the generations where it's like they don't care about brands so much, where it's just whatever. Now it's like they're comfortable, Like
Yeah.
working in the school, it's so weird, and it's like I'm in this weird parallel universe because I remember like getting up super early, having to do my hair and my makeup and make sure I have like a nice outfit and now these kids are like in sweats and sweatshirts and they don't care where it's from. It's like
Or pajama
or
pants.
yeah, pajama pants. Like I used to be teased for wearing pajama pants.
Yeah.
Like but I mean, I don't know, maybe I started that.
You started the
I
pajama
started yeah, I
trend,
started
hey.
that.
Yeah. It was hard. Like even like my brothers say like I remember my brother being bullied on the
Mm,
bus, and then he just like fought back one time, and ever
mm,
since then the bully never ever bugged him.
yeah, yeah.
So like even for myself, like I started becoming the bully because I wanted to beat them to the punchline.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm not gonna be bullied. I'm gonna be the little shit ass
Yeah,
myself.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So and then right away, like comes the turnaround and being labeled as the bully and stuff.
Shit starter.
Yeah. But I take fully responsibility. Like, yeah, I did
Mm,
do some shit because I just got sick of it too.
yeah, there's only so much that anybody can take. There's a limit for everybody. And then that's unfortunate that the only time anybody takes notice is when you finally start fighting back. But they're not going to say anything to the bullies that are talking bad. And that goes for like at any point in your life, especially you see it now as adults. Like you're only a bad person or you're only a problem person when you start speaking up
Yeah.
against injustices, either that's happening to you or happening to others. Like I look at some of our family members, like one of our uncles is labeled a shit starter in reserve, and I hate that so much because he literally just says what's on his mind. He speaks up against he asks the hard questions that everybody else is too afraid to ask.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
I'm the same way though too. Is I'm kind of getting that label of like, oh no, like be careful what you say around Shekinah. She's gonna go and say something, and I have questions. Like you don't want
I'm
to
the
be
exact
questioned.
same way.
Like you don't want to be questioned. Like these questions need answers. I'm not gonna go and have these background conversations and like, oh, I wonder. Like I will go to the source and ask, like, what's wrong with that? But you can't do that because then it's like, oh well, what are you being nosy for? Like, what do you need to know? It's none of your business. But it's like it's a lot of community stuff. So it's
Yeah.
like it's community business. What are you talking about?
It's just us. It's just being truthful and honestly asking what a lot of us want to know,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
nobody's gonna do it, so we're like, oh, I'll do it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like,
That's a huge part, especially in the whole healing thing, because old me prior to and like in my drinking stages, I would just be like, I guess you would say asleep, where it was like I didn't care about nothing. I didn't care to inquire about anything. I didn't have no questions. I stayed quiet because it was also that fear though of like that judgment of shut up, like you drink or da 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 da, you know.
Oh,
So I'm
yeah.
just like, okay, but now that I'm healing, I'm not healed. I'm healing. I think
Yes.
I'll be healing for the rest of my life,
Exactly.
which is unfortunate, but whatever. I think we all need to be healing for the rest of our lives.
Yeah,
Like
I don't think anyone is like fully healed. I think every day we're healing each day.
anyone who says that they're fully healed needs to go look in the mirror and just have a good long look at yourself first, because I really don't think any of us is ever fully healed. Just like thinking about it, and I know it's exhausting. It's an exhausting statement to make of you're never fully healed. Like no, there's always room for improvement. That's a good way to think of it. There's always ways we can be better, always ways to just be a better person, not just for yourself, but for the world in general. And so that you need to make sure you're constantly healing so that when someone feels safe enough to lean on you in their start of healing, you're able to support that person.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. That's exactly like how I am in my community. But I always speak like from the heart and what's right, being honest and like fairness,
Yeah.
like that's what I like. I'm so
Yeah.
big about fairness and honesty. I'm like, come on, like. But anyways, when you were talking about that, I got a shirt that says something like the shit starter is an act of kindness or something. It's from harm reduction anyway.
I need that.
Yeah, I actually gave one to the uncle.
It's good. I hope he wears it to the next band meeting.
I got one for him and I got one for myself. And
Yeah.
where the heck did I go? And I seen him and I was like, "Where's your sweater?" I was wearing mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
That's funny. I love that you know which uncle I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I love my uncle. I'd fight for him.
Oh, me too.
But my fighting days are over. I will fight with my words.
Oh yeah. Just use your words.
Yeah. Jeez. I mean, I don't know. If I'm backed into a corner. But one thing I did want to touch on for sure was, I think we touched on a lot of these, but what are you most proud of today in your recovery?
And I think it'll just be like personally for myself, the growth, acceptance, and from who I was then and who I am now. Like I could sit in chaos. I faced so many things, and I probably still will. Like I have a lot of years to go. Just doing that personal like inventory they talk about, like before I act on anything, I would sit there and like think about it and be like, okay, well, how am I gonna get through this? Um, yeah, my personal growth and the peace, that peace. Oh, that peace. Like I could be sitting at home. I do sit at home a lot. I just had a small baby, but even before then, like after work, I'd be like cruising home, like I'm late for work. I mean, late for home, like I got to be home and just sit around and just that peace, being in that moment and in that stillness, and then looking back and thinking, because I remember when like weekends would come, like I didn't even work and I was excited for weekends. And I would have my whole plan already, but now I'm like, oh, okay, like nice. Like I just kind of get home and just take my shoes off and
just be.
See my kids and can't wait till Leon gets home, cooks for me. Like just little small things like that. Those are like big things to me now.
Yeah.
It's very peaceful but it's sometimes your peace gets a little shaken up there, and that's life. Yep, that is totally life.
We're on the same frequency right now. That's like the fourth time we've synced up there.
Yeah.
Okay, and then finally, for someone in early sobriety, what do they need to hear?
Someone in early sobriety, what I would want to share with them is, like, say if I was to share my story, like I am right now, actually, and usually we talk about the goodness of everything, but talking about that those hard times,
Mm.
those lonely times,
Mhm.
those
Mhm.
dark times, those times they're fighting by themselves where they think like, oh, I don't want to text this person that's gonna help support me because I'm probably bugging them.
Mhm.
Those times, reach out.
Yeah.
Don't stay there by yourself. Don't go through it by yourself.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
and it's not always gonna be friggin' butterflies and rainbows, man.
Mhm.
Like there's gonna be hard days. But what I would want them to do is to be in the moment
Yeah.
and not think, okay, what am I gonna do tomorrow? Like, oh, I
Mm.
gotta go do this,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
you're overwhelming yourself.
Yeah.
You're in recovery.
Mhm.
You don't have a set schedule.
Yeah.
Like when we're in early recovery, okay, I'm gonna go somewhere else
Mhm.
right away. Say for example, like if I went into a treatment center and I'm only like 72 hours from no use of alcohol and drugs.
Mhm.
I can't have my shit all together,
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
even when you're at home, you don't have to be on a schedule. Take your time.
Yeah.
Do something small, like
Yeah.
have a nice coffee, sit there in the morning and reflect, be in
Mhm.
the moment. Because I find a lot of times, like, we talk about the good, but not enough of the what's happening, in the walls in
Yeah.
recovery.
Yeah, the hard and the dark, because it does get dark
It does,
and it
yeah.
is lonely. But one thing I've learned, and it's, you just have to trust yourself and have that trust and kind of build that strength in yourself and stop relying on that idea that you need to be surrounded by people and that's the only way you're going to be better and get better and you can't use your, and one thing I learned too is you can't use your kids as an excuse to get better. You have to do it for yourself.
Yes.
And your kids will just reap the benefits once you start healing for yourself and you put in all that work for yourself. Then everything around you will just fall into place. Like that's the only way. Like, and there is no way to avoid the dark or the hard or anything like that. There's no way to avoid it. A lot of the times you just have to go through it and make sure that you do reach out to the proper resources when needed, but also just be mindful of who you surround yourself with in recovery. Like that's a huge thing too, because I've had people tease me like I'd be out and they'd be like, "Oh, what's one drink?" or "How long has it been sober now?" "Okay, let's celebrate with a drink." And it's like for me, it's like I can take that joke because it's like, what the hell? Like, what what if I wasn't, as strong in my sobriety?
Yeah.
What if I was weak or struggling? What if you caught me in a moment and you have this person like
Encouraging
teasing?
it.
Yeah, and it's like
As a sarcasm, though.
you have to be careful who you surround yourself with because a lot of the times people do just they want that like I told you so moment, like, oh, I told you you were gonna fail,
Like they just
that's
want to see that.
that's just awful.
Yeah, that's one thing too. Like when people ask me, like I had a person ask me, like, did you like why did you get sober? And I said I got sober for myself, not for my kids, because honestly, it had to be for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because just like I talked early, like putting my sobriety and healing
Mm-hmm.
into somebody else's hands, it's like putting it into my kids' hands and like, okay, if they piss me off, I'm gonna go drinking,
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
no, that's mine. I
Yeah,
holding it and keeping it safe.
yeah.
Like if my kids piss me off, heck, I'll go sit outside or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like yeah, and then they're like, oh, okay, and I was like, yeah, it's just the honest truth. Like I had to do it for me. It couldn't be for my kids. It couldn't be for my husband. Like
Mhm.
yeah, it impacts them. Like
Yeah.
it has a lot to do for them
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Healthy mom. They're gonna have you know me healthy for them.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big realization too when I quit drinking and doing drugs. I'm like, oh, it has to be for me. Like, I can't
Mm-hmm.
do it for anybody else, or it's not gonna really work for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Whether you're gonna have that, you're gonna feel like a sense of pressure to stay sober, and you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for the approval and kind of like like giving a dog a treat, like when it does the tricks you want
Yeah.
it to do, you know? Like there's that feeling. You have to do it for yourself. That's the only way you're going to have that fulfillment and that sense of accomplishment and pride. Sobriety is not something you can talk about in one episode. It's not something
Mm-hmm.
that can be shared because everybody's journeys are so different, but there's also just so much that has to be said. And because there's this movement right now and I love to see it. These young people are, and I think it was in the news where there's like a rapid decline or decrease in alcohol sales. There's like this sobriety movement happening right now,
Oh
and I
yeah.
love to see it.
And I always think of like our people struggling today, and I see a lot of them. A lot of our people are just people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they have hurt, they have pain. You know, when we share our stories and we talk about our trauma, and I think like, what is their story? You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
like instead of saying, "Oh, that person is just addicted to drugs and alcohol," you know.
There's a reason.
Yeah.
There is it's and it's not an excuse. You're just looking for a reason because like I took a trauma course last summer because I'm taking my post back right now. But so we took a trauma course and I say this all the time and I will stand by this. Everybody needs to take a trauma course. If you're working with the public, you need to learn about trauma informed care. And especially like I work with the youth, right? So I found my places working with like the older kids, so like high school age.
Mm-hmm.
And and in that trauma class we had to do or wasn't it was two separate classes but kind of trauma related. But anyways, we had to do a piece on identity. And a lot of the times these um what's the word, like addictive tendencies or the to find an escape or whatever is comes from lack of identity, lack of
Mm-hmm.
knowing who
Yeah.
you are, what you're about. Like yeah, all you know is what you grew up with or how you were raised, but when you find your identity for yourself, that I feel, and you help, and if you establish your identity at an early age, you could literally avoid so much trauma happening. Because once you have a solid sense of identity, like you won't be easily influenced, you wouldn't be seeking out, I guess, external forms of validation to
Mm-hmm.
run from trauma. You know,
Yeah.
you'd be set in your in who you are enough to be comfortable to say no to maybe peer pressure or drugs and alcohol or anything like that. So that's something that like when I'm working at the schools where I prefer making connections with my students over anything and letting them know that, you know, my classroom is a safe space and I always turn my classroom into like a little room. Like I like to make it comfortable. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like the traditional classrooms and I hate curriculum. So
Oh.
I'm trying to branch out from being a teacher. I'm more on like student wellness because I'd love to help the youth of today establish themselves in their identities early so that they can avoid all the shit that I went through. And that's kind of like that's what drives me. It's like because I went through so much and I went through so much on my own, and because that's just I had to. That's kind of just how I was raised, and I growing up, I'm like it didn't have to be like that. It didn't, like I could have asked for help and people would have helped me. And now I'm like I'm very open about that with my students, where I'm like, if you need anything, you need to talk about anything. Like I know I'm just a computer teacher, or I'm just a math teacher, whatever. Like I'm here to talk about anything with you, anything like I'm here, just making
Mm-hmm.
sure that's known. So that's something that I wish that little Shekinah would have heard, and that I have all these little bunch of littles now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just take them as my own. But I
You
feel
know,
like
they're lucky you're there.
that's how we need to be though. Like in any occupation that anybody works in, they need to be trauma informed, and you need to have that prioritize that sense of connection, establishing that trust and build that relationship with that person first before, like you were saying earlier about the policies and procedures. Like yes, those are important, just like I was saying curriculum. I hate curriculum, but it's important. But I still sneak in the personal stuff. And I think that's the problem with our, like today, people are so disconnected. And I think my dad said it last episode, where it's funny, we're in a generation, you know, we have the phones and we're so connected, but this connection is causing a disconnection. And
Yeah.
I see that, and it's unfortunate, but I feel like, and it's I'm putting a lot of pressure on our generation because we're also breaking that intergenerational trauma. We're breaking cycles in our families. We're breaking cycles in policies and procedures in communities and in these different organizations. We're holding the older generations accountable for maybe some of the negative ways that things are happening now, and we're going in and rearranging all of that, and it's exhausting, but like we are building it up for our kids, and just like it makes me so happy and so proud that the work that we're putting in now in ourselves, in our families, and then in our communities, because it is a domino effect, and that positive domino effect, like it makes me have peace, and it makes me excited to see the kind of community and family that my children will have when they're older.
Yeah, and compassion too. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's a huge thing. Like,
Yeah.
I loved what you said there. Like, because I know what like the older generation are
Mm-hmm.
set in their ways,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, oh, like I'm honestly where you're kind of at too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, we need to like we're people first, and
Yep.
it's not like um curriculum, policy,
Mm-hmm.
procedure, and what the government wants us to do. You
Yeah.
know, and I'm like we're naturally been healers and
Yeah.
helpers.
Yeah.
You know, like for me, um, that's why I do my work. Well, I don't like calling it work, but it is work. Like where I work, and I do it more per like as a person, and I take it to heart. But then I have that balance
Yeah.
between like getting too what do you say, like personal, I guess.
Getting too
And
involved.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and our people can know, they know that, like,
Yeah.
you know, when they walk in there. Okay, I had like, I won't say names, but I had this beautiful person. She's her mom brought her to me, and she straight up and told me, like, sat in that chair, and she said, "Oh, I don't want to be here. Like, I'm just here because my mom wants me to." And I was like, "Okay, well, thank you for being honest with me. Like, I like honest people, and it's straightforward." Heck, one thing I learned too, like being in recovery myself and being in the field of giving back and helping our people like myself, you know, in addiction with drugs or alcohol, is finding that balance of knowing when to step aside, you know, kind of protect yourself. Because I have four siblings, and when I first started my recovery journey, I wanted to save them, man. I wanted to put them on my back and be like, "Come on, man, you're so much worse than this shitty drugs and alcohol, man. Like, how come you can't see your worth?" And then I thought myself, you know, and think, Trish, you know what it's like to be there. It has to be on their own time. Just love them unconditionally. That's what they need is love, but with that boundary too. You know, like as before when I would try go and like be there for them all the time, I was putting myself in like risky situations. Like, man, I would go try and help them. Sometimes I would say something and it would just backfire on me. Then all of a sudden they're mad at me and like saying stuff to me like, "Oh, you think you're this all that because you're sober," and you know, like, and I was like,
I've heard
"Holy
that.
shit, man!" But I don't think I'm all that. I always told my siblings and that I love them. I said, you know, like, I love you guys, and I pray for you so that one day you could see your worth the way I've seen mine. I said, because what that alcohol and drug does to you is like just stealing like the goodness of you. Like I know you. I grew up with you. Like I know of a good person that you really are. And I wish they could see that too.
You've seen their potential. And what they're capable of.
For sure. And hard. Really hard. Like we can't save them, but we can keep loving them. With those healthy boundaries too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's so much topics we could talk about in that area, but I know I'm trying to stick to the alcohol and drugs.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely schedule in more. I like to hope to have like 10 seasons.
I know we could.
There's so much you could do with it. And you know, when I was doing my research, when I was talking with my friend about starting a podcast, because we were just talking about starting it to just talk about whatever, and then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, hey, like, in doing my research, like I said, there is no podcast talking about life on reserve or the struggles that we have on reserve. There's like, what do you call them, the city natives talking about leaving the res and thriving off reserve. But I don't I don't want to leave home. Like, this is my home. Like, I would love to be here and like change it for good, for the
Yeah.
good, and just thrive here. Like, why not thrive here? Like, everyone always says, like, make sure you get your education. Don't leave the reserve and don't come back. Like, there's nothing for you here. Why not? Why not? Why can't we turn it into some place that it could be, a place where we want to stay, where we want to be? So then I started thinking of the podcast, and I'm like, well, we need to start sharing our experiences and bringing that connection back and doing it in a good way. And one thing about me too is, like, I was telling my dad, like, man, I just miss visiting. Like, heck, like, nobody visits the way I remember growing
Like
up. Like,
even birthdays are different,
they're
eh?
so different, man. Like, nobody shows up anymore, and it's like, even so, I'm like, well, now I have a reason for these people to come visit me. Like, come do a podcast. Let's just
Yeah.
let's just visit and let's talk. And that's why they're kind of structured this way, in an all over the place kind of way. But that's good, because that's just how it is when we visit. And, like, growing up, I remember people coming to visit my parents, and they would be like, and sober, they would be like reminiscing and crying 1 minute, and then big deadly laughs the next. And
Yeah.
it's like, holy man, like, they just, and then they leave feeling so good. And that's what I love about doing this work here. I love, because every episode I've done, we've always ended in a good way, and made sure that whatever was said in the podcast was, our intention was good, and
Mm-hmm.
it's never meant to harm anybody or to look down on anybody or
Yes.
anything. And that we this is just an open, comfortable space, and that's why I leave it open. And I've made it known that if you have something that you want to talk about, like, come on here, let's visit, let's talk about it. Like, I'm open to anything and anyone, and I look forward to future episodes, because I do have some people scheduled in for April, so I'm really excited for those ones. And you definitely need to come back for sure, because there's so much that we didn't touch on, or that we can maybe elaborate more on, that would be really good too. So,
There's one thing that I would like to mention
mm-hmm.
first. Like just the other night there, I think it was Saturday. Me and Leon went to one thing, and I got home, and this feeling, this old feeling that I used to feel after binge drinking.
Mm-hmm.
It was a dark, dark feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like that feeling where your mind is telling you, like, you know, when those hangovers, they scare the shit out of you,
Mm-hmm.
man. Like they almost convince you that, like, you even have suicidal thoughts.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I was having suicidal thoughts
Mm-hmm.
at those times in my addiction before I finally found the courage to, you know, to keep sober.
Mm-hmm.
It came over me on Saturday, and I had made this post, and then I guess they must have thought like I was like feeling that,
Mm-hmm.
like that dark feeling,
Yeah, yeah,
but it
yeah.
was just something lingering, like I felt like as if someone that was feeling that, like
Mm-hmm.
is telling me, like, somebody out there is feeling this right now,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
need support, they
Mm-hmm.
need love, they
Mm-hmm.
need prayers, because that is a scary feeling, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you go start thinking suicidal thoughts
Mm-hmm.
after binge drinking, and
Mm-hmm.
you're wondering, what did I do? Like,
Yeah,
did I black out? Did I hurt
yeah,
anyone? Did I say things?
yeah,
Did I,
yeah,
did I make a fool out of myself? And
yeah.
that anxiety feeling,
Mm.
anxiety I would
Yeah,
call
yeah,
it,
yeah,
and you feel like just like hiding under a rock,
yeah.
and your mind starts telling you like, oh, you should be ashamed of yourself. Like, oh, like you're better off not being here.
Yeah,
That's how it was for me personally.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
only sharing what it was for me.
yeah.
I felt that Saturday, and oh man, I started praying, and I told Leon, I said, babe, I don't know why I'm feeling this. Like, why am I feeling like something's telling me somebody out there needs prayer? He's like, well, heck, babe, there's lots of people that need that prayer, lost in addiction, and I said, yeah. And I started praying, and whoever is feeling that type of feeling, I pray that a family member or a friend checks on them, check on each other. We all know what it's like to be in that dark place. And it's so scary to be there alone. Like, heck, I just remember that. And I just pray for them all that they not have to go through that dark place by themselves. Even for those like that are listening or that will be listening to the podcast, if any of you or anyone have ever felt that way, reach out. Don't be afraid. I know our mind will tell us the opposite, like, oh, don't bug them, you're bugging them, but no, anybody and everybody would rather have, you reach out for support or just a normal conversation, like, hey, what you doing? Like, I have a lot of our people from Pegasus and Fish River that message me through Messenger, and I'm like, hey, like, just like friends. I don't see them as like clients. I see them as people and friends. And just to check up on how they're doing, and that just simple kindness like that.
It costs nothing, absolutely nothing, to just be kind, check up on your people, and even people who aren't your people, just check up on anybody. Like, a lot of the time we use Facebook as a diary, and sometimes it can be super toxic, but sometimes it gives you this insight of like, people actually do reach out for help on there, so it's important to check up on those people too. Well, thank you for coming on, and I look forward to future episodes because there is a ton that came from here that we still need to talk about.
I know, like, we could go right into detail, and I know we jumped around a lot, and I just hope that everybody that is gonna watch knows that I didn't script anything. I can't do that. I would be like all over.
We're deadly and unfiltered. We flow like the river, and
like the river flows and the grass grows.
All right.